I'm gonna throw some of your own numbers back at you from your article for the last thing from your Forbes article. It was reported that 2021 that ransomware itself was about $20 billion, and that's expected to 10x over the next 10 years. So you're looking at 265 billion, with the average attack running about 1.85 million. With the notoriety that's now seems to have hit mainstream, I mean, my parents who are retired are actually making comments to me about this, which they never would have ever in the past. With how far in the future do you see that exponential growth curve will finally, at a minimum, start to either slow down a little bit or maybe flatten? So it's just not so. In 10 more years, we're not looking at another 10x of this, that we've actually made a dent in this and not just fighting ourselves.
It's going to be a few years because I think we're also at the same time fighting the growth of connectivity, and we're adding a lot of devices, particularly Internet of Things devices. By I think in 5 years, we'll have every person will have 3 devices connected to them or more. I think probably a lot more. So you're creating more targets of entry. Which makes it difficult. So I think, but the other countervailing thing is what you just said with it. People are starting to recognize the importance of cybersecurity in our commerce and the importance of keeping our finances and actually ever doing anything we do on social media or whatever we're doing. So we're transitioning to a fully digital world, probably faster than we thought we ever would because of COVID and other things. But so I think the balance there has to happen with a larger educational and outreach and advocacy. But so to answer your question, I'm not optimistic about the short term, but I think in the long term, maybe we have some innovating technology capabilities.
In my lifetime?
Maybe with automation and maybe with hardening of some of the stuff, I think, there must be some, there's ways to fortify and make yourself, it's expensive for most people, but maybe if it gets, to the point where the consumer can afford something that really works, the combination of hardware, software, security, maybe we'll make a dent in it.
You actually kind of touched on that briefly, because is there anything new that you've seen that you're privy to coming down that's got you kind of excited that, hey, this isn't fleshed out enough yet for mainstream, but there's some stuff coming to bring some hope?
Well, I've seen a lot of the early technology with machine learning, artificial intelligence, although it depends how you define artificial intelligence. A lot of that is very hopeful,
right?
For horizon scanning and vulnerability assessments and analysis and discovering patterns. That works. It's also being used by the bad guys too to do a lot of automation and finding vulnerabilities. So it works both ways, but I think that's a very encouraging technology. Also, I think there's some interesting polymorphic encryption type technologies being developed and other things that don't have to be expensive that could be useful. Still, most of the data is not encrypted, that was stolen, including government. All the clearances and stuff that were stolen a few years back at OPM were not even encrypted. So I think there's some potential interesting technologies, largely boosted by artificial intelligence, that will sort of make, even the game for the lack of cyber experts out there, but some automation of a lot of the capabilities, including the discovery of a lot of the anomalies on the system, which will be important.
Hey, Chuck, you mentioned kind of the shortage of technology experts out in the field. And so for those that are interested, like I said, you just talked on a bunch of the new up and coming and new trending things that are on the horizon. For somebody who's looking at getting into the cybersecurity space as it stands right now, where would you recommend that they start? Like, here's a good starting point if you're wanting to start a career in cybersecurity. Like I said, you started yours back in 2003 and have advanced quite a bit since then. So for somebody coming in new, where would you recommend that they start to get?
Well, I think now there's so many opportunities in both, and hopefully in high school and college, not just coding, but actually on technology courses and where everything's going with emerging and disruptive technologies. That's a really good way to get involved. And there's also a lot of interesting certifications out there, CompTIA, SANS, and others doing some really interesting training. And, cybersecurity is not all technical either. It involves policy, it involves sales, it involves management. So I think everything pertains to it. So I think, it's really, you have to look at it in a holistic point. But I think part of the way to do that is just get involved with a lot of the, maybe internships that are out there. There's a lot of companies looking to train on point. If you're an engineer, go that way because there's certainly a lack of engineers, and those will always be valuable. But I think there's a lot of opportunities. There is so much opportunity that pretty much could write their own salary if they have a technical background.
Hold on. I got to go do some stuff now. So